and we are going to do a Q&A with David and I based on a conversation that we had a while back when we got to know each other. But yeah, I think to get started, if we want to go around and just do quick introductions with everyone in the room, just so we have a sense. I know most of you because you're all from the Startup Zone community, but a good chance for David to get to know you, I guess. So I'll start first. I'm Rachel, and I'm the marketing and events coordinator at the Startup Zone. Sarah, if you want to go next, I'll leave my volume on.
Yeah, I'm Sarah. I'm the acting operations manager at the Startup Zone. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
And we also have Molly in the room, who is our startup services coordinator. So some of us got together for this. Clark, if you want to do a quick introduction.
Excuse me. Can you hear me?
Yep.
My name is Clark. I'm at the Startup Zone. I have a resident company. I have a product design studio. Our focus these past 6 months has been a series of children's podcasts. That's me, amongst other things. Nice to meet you.
You as well.
Super sweet. And I know Troy, Rhett, and Louise, you guys don't have cameras on, but if any of you want to introduce yourself, you can.
Yeah, my name is Troy Van Broker. I'm CEO and co-founder of World Formula Rats, and we are looking to help companies and organizations make really difficult decisions easy.
Excellent.
Nice. There's Redden.
Hey, g'day. I'm Redden. Nice to meet you. I run RH Videography and Media. We're a company at the Startup Zone. It's really just me, but short answer is I do video stuff for local small businesses and corporations.
Nice.
And last but not least, Louise.
Hi, I'm having a problem getting my video on, but Louise Campbell, and I'm owner of a new startup called Saltwater Solutions, which is an island tourism consulting business.
Nice.
Awesome. So that's all of us. So without further ado, we'll go on and focus on you, David. But yeah, so the first question that I have for you, pretty simple, is just introduce yourself and your background.
Sure. So my name is David Searle. I guess I'm a creative entrepreneur. I guess I think of myself more in the solopreneur vein of things. And the list of titles I've had over the years can be a little bit conflated, so it's a nice catch-all. I guess, I should just start with the story of how it goes. So, as a young musician, I decided kind of early on that being a performing musician just wasn't really for me. The challenges associated with it and the potential for income just wasn't something I wanted to kind of make a life out of. Though doing something in the arts industry always was a primary interest and being some kind of an entrepreneur. That being said, coming out of high school and opening up a business is probably not the wisest decision. So, I figured I should probably create some skills and some good foundations, which led me into a computer science degree at Carleton University, which I really didn't love. It was a very isolating time and I just didn't really click with it. So I ended up leaving school and I thought, well, as an entrepreneur, a high cost for me is always going to be renovations and setup and all that kind of stuff. And as, maturing into a homeowner and those kind of things, it seems like trade work had a lot of very tangible benefits. And it also kind of coincided with the fact that I was always been kind of a bit of a tinkerer and always loved taking things apart and that kind of jazz. So I kind of decided to spend a while in the trades, which I guess I still am, and never really thought it would be my whole life. But, you don't always get to put away the skills that you gather. So I started, my first job was a concrete job, which was a reality check for me being a, musician and computers guy. But after, I bounced around to a couple of things because really the goal at the end of the day wasn't to become a professional in any one of them, but to get like a really broad understanding of all of these different levels. So after, I'd say about 3 or 4 years was when I really started going on my own, which included me acquiring private contracts as a carpenter and a lot of subcontracting to other businesses. So this let me kind of dip into all these different fields. And fortunately, it took me all over most of this country. I met some really great people, worked with a lot of interesting groups, and, kind of garnered a lot of knowledge, really kind of worked on picking the brains of people on site and just trying to soak in as much as I could. So as I was kind of progressing in life, okay, it's time to start translating these skills into something that was more to what my goals were. I moved to a community called Peterborough in the Kawarthas in central Ontario, and I made a friend there, Wayne O'Connor, and he was a luthier. Luthiers are stringed instrument builders and repair people. Started off with the violin guys, and now any one of them all kind of like fit under the same mantra. And Wayne and my other friend Tim, who I did my acoustic apprenticeship with, those two men kind of changed my life. I was able to take these skill sets that I had and really meet challenges that I didn't know that I was going to be able to do. And I'll be eternally grateful to those people. So I decided, as a young person, I kind of thought that I might have like a shop, maybe do like some repairs in the back. I'm a guitarist, for the record, by the way, obviously. But after getting involved with these guys, I kind of got inspired for this guitar factory. But at the same time, I still had a desire, just as a matter of, personal capital and achievement, to have a university degree. So I went back to school. This time I went for politics and economics. And as I was going through my program, I kind of juggled my construction company, my Luthery studies, the university, building up my guitar factory. And it was a lot of work, dominated a lot of my time. And one thing that was unexpected that came out of that was a lot of the local musicians who were colleagues and friends of mine, some of them very well respected and with high level achievements. We're all like jamming, rehearsing, and recording in my dusty old wood shop. So it kind of became obvious that there was a bigger market to be selling studio time than high-end guitars. It's easy to sell something for 20 or 30 bucks an hour compared to a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 product, right? So then came the studio. I opened up a recording rehearsal studio called Gorilla Studios. I was very proud of the things we accomplished there in a short period of time. We reached profitability in the first 7 months of operations, which was, 6 months ahead of schedule as far as I was concerned. And it was designed to be like a community studio. So less of this kind of top-down engineer and more of creating a place that people could learn, share, practice, and purvey their own work. So I don't claim to be any kind of recording or mixing engineer per se. And the whole idea was kind of around a DIY concept, especially with the, the changes in technology, home recording, and the, how software has really just revolutionized the industry. It seemed to be a forward-thinking model. That being said, once I kind of got into it, the skill sets that I assumed people were having weren't really there. So I found there was another recording studio that had opened, and he was kind of struggling, and I was, being a contractor, I built a better space that was, better treatments and acoustic treatments, that is. And I was already stealing his business. And I'm not in the business of putting people out of business, I find as entrepreneurs, we can be stronger together rather than trying to take people out of the market. So I went and had a meeting with him, and we got to know each other, and he closed his business down and then just reopened it under the same brand in my space. And so he became my engineer in the house. Not that we were totally exclusive to him. And it was a really great symbiotic relationship for a long time. And it really created opportunity for me to be dynamic and try new things. And it led into a whole bunch of venues that I never really imagined myself getting into. All of a sudden I was doing set design and building for a theater. I was mixing shows. I took over a not-for-profit music festival at the request of our local BIA. and did a rebrand on it, brought it to profitability over the course of a year. I even made a music video and a couple random things. But unfortunately, it was a very short tenure. There was a fire downtown, and it kind of took out my business and a number of other artists as well. And that was kind of the end of that. So after, a couple of years of lawyers and mucking around, I just kind of decided that it was time for a big change. And so then I found myself moving here to PI. It was one of the few places that I hadn't really visited in this country. And, I also had a lot of friends from here, and we always kind of talked about coming here in our middle age. And so now I'm just kind of the first. And so here I am, and just trying to see where I fit in and what's going on and learn a little bit about the community. And so I reached out to you guys, and this is what we're up to now. So I guess so far as what I've done here, I've met this gentleman, and he's a video production guy from Vancouver. And so now we're working on doing compact eco homes. So we just got the envelope of our first prototype done out in some property that he bought in Morel. We have one that we're going to go work on this winter in Vancouver that we're just actually Vancouver Island. We're just ironing out the last few details with, and we're supposed to go into Panama this winter, scouting for some property and whatever there. Because we kind of have this idea where homes don't need to be as big anymore. You're seeing smaller families, more single people, and that kind of thing. So a 2,000 square foot home just isn't really reasonable. And with the rising costs of property and homes, well, now you could come and buy, a house and a vacation home from us for the same price as what you're going to buy a house at downtown Charlottetown or anywhere in Ontario for. And it's been kind of interesting because as much as I've done all of these jobs in a home, I've never really done it top to bottom and the whole way through. So now I find I'm doing all the drawings, all the layout, and the construction from start to finish, which is, I find, highly creative in a way that may not be easily recognized as such. So, and he's a great guy, and we've made good friends as well. So that's been nice.
Super cool. Yeah, all that's awesome, David. Thanks for sharing. So I guess a lot of your work now is definitely focused on the creative industries. So the next question we have is, can you just tell us a little bit more about this, and what advice would you offer to any entrepreneurs thinking of starting out in any of these fields that you've kind of been in?
As far as myself in it, I just am interested in projects. If I like to find interesting people and see what they're working on, and if I find it interesting and I feel like I have something to contribute, I'm just happy to get involved. It doesn't really matter what it is or what the point is, as long as I feel like it aligns with my values and systems, then I'm happy to do what I can. So that's brought me to a lot of community work, and also like a lot of third-party work. So there's been a number of events and things that I've been a part of that I really hardly even had any association with, just because they were associated with people whom I respected and whose work I was trying to support. So just about expanding networks and creating new friends and synergies and all of that kind of jazz. It does come with this, I find the creative industry does have a different set of challenges and demands. So for example, like your personal brand, I find is so much more important. Your relationships with your clients are very much more intimate. Your personal values, your identities, they're much more important in the forefront than say, I produce an app. Nobody would ever see who I am, care what I do, or what I believe in, whereas it's because of the person that I am and the work that I've done that people were drawn to working with me. So, really curating that and being conscious of that for both the positive and negative things that come around with that, especially you talk about things like identities, you may find, if you're Indigenous or whatever else, you might find somebody's using you to exploit your identity for their own brand building, so how are you going to deal with that? Are you okay with that? Are you not? These are decisions that you're going to have to make that you wouldn't have to do in most other industries. Well, not maybe most, but many others. So, in that sense, you really have to be really much more aware of synergies, and I think the second part that kind of goes along with this is being dynamic. Very many businesses are pretty linear, You know, if you're talking anything in an arts or creative field, it's definitely not. You know, the labor and the product that is produced from it is often poorly understood. It's intangible, subjective, and can oftentimes kind of be undervalued. You know, so I find things like engaging with the public sector, with the not-for-profit sector, and community groups are all kind of integral parts of finding success in a creative industry.
Nice, awesome. So in our first call we had David, you chatted a lot about empowering and giving a voice to others, and then also fostering diversity in entrepreneurship and the work you do as well. Can you touch a bit on this and like how you do it, and then also why it is so important?
Well, to me, entrepreneurship really is about solving problems. You know, some people might have a dream or a thing that they're really into and trying to kind of convey to the world. For me, it's in some ways a lot less personal than that. You know, like I never had ambitions of being a studio owner. I just saw a need in my community, which made a hole in the market and a capacity for income. You know, I'm a capitalist and a socialist. I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. And so I find business is an opportunity to kind of do social good, community good at the same time as, empowering myself and profiting. So, you know, when it comes to empowering others, you know, none of us are an island, you know, we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. And I find together, you know, the weaknesses tend to dissipate much more and we gain more about sharing our strengths. I find, you know, working, you know, especially as a solopreneur type, it's very easy to kind of get into tunnel vision, you know, so having outside perspectives is very important because you can really fall into a lot of pitfalls and traps. So you just don't know what you don't know. And the more that you can gain from others and share back with them, you know, it just creates, again, back to this idea of synergies and networking and community building. So I find that it's just a great way to expand your networks, to do those social goods that you might feel are important to you, and, you know, find hidden communities and things that you just wouldn't have come across in other ways. So kind of in a nutshell, it's just kind of about benefiting each other, team building, community building, because at the end of the day, as much as I'm helping all of those people, that helps me as well. So why would I not try and empower others, you know? And if there's someone that's disenfranchised, then there's better gains to be had for all if we invest in those.
Awesome. I have one last question and then we can go on to questions from the audience and really anything else you want to touch on. But the last one, and I try to ask this to everyone who does a coffee chat, but what's the biggest lesson you've learned in your journey as an entrepreneur?
Well, that's a pretty easy one, I think. Kind of the importance of boundaries and having an exit plan. You know, the studio consumed my life in a way that I had never really anticipated as being an entrepreneur. You know, so working with them, I did a lot of live events, which means I worked with a lot of bars, a lot of restaurants, event halls, not-for-profit groups. The studio operated primarily in the evenings and weekends. My meetings were during the day, and especially in the early days of the studio, I was funding it with my construction work. So for me to work an 80-hour week was not uncommon. 70 was kind of my average. And it was so pervasive in my life. There wasn't anything anywhere I could go, anything I could do in my community that wasn't attached to my work. So that was great, and I really loved it, you know. But it was definitely a consuming type of experience, especially when I was looking at being a community studio. You know, we had a lot of youth. We had, you know, university intern, a co-op student, you know, and there was like a lot of young people that came through the space. I helped get them jobs with my friends in the restaurant community and construction community. You know, I got to hear about their girlfriend problems and their fights with their parents, all sorts of things that just is a entrepreneur, not things that are necessarily typical and expected in a lot of instances. So with that being said, when the fire came and it was done, well, there was what was left, you know. It was like my whole life was kind of tied up in this empire that I had kind of built and worked on, and then all of a sudden it was kind of gone. And so they kind of left me with a feeling of, you know, futility and in my life. And well, what is it now that I'm not doing this, you know? So, and that's still honestly something I'm still kind of struggling with in a certain way, you know, and trying to find, you know, well, what do I do next? And why do I do it? What does it mean? So that's that has really led me to this conclusion and appreciation of the idea of having an exit plan, creating, you know, stronger boundaries and detachments from the work, and really trying to create boxes and having a finality to projects that weren't so important to me before, because it was, you know, so much part of my life and my social groups and networks and relationships. So but at the end of the day, I'm a worker through and through. So I don't know how well I'm going to succeed at all that.
That's really important. I think it's really important to bring up boundaries and also just to address the fact that entrepreneurship is definitely really consuming, like time consuming, emotionally consuming, etc. So yeah,
Mhm.
definitely great that you brought that up. I guess just kind of moving on to questions from the audience, I'll get started. Are there any like strategies that you found have worked best for you for focusing on a work-life balance? It seems like that's something that you're still kind of focusing on and still working on, but it's also something that a lot of entrepreneurs bring up. So I feel like it could be helpful to some.
So at that time, it was kind of about outsourcing jobs, you know. So did I need to do every job? No. Through the studio, we had a network of people that did work. We had music teachers, we had engineers, and we had graphic designers and photographers and videographers. So the more that I could put onto somebody else and hopefully put up markup on, you know, that was one less thing that I didn't have to do. And as far as the boundaries, I failed at that wholeheartedly then. So now it's more about the what, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. That's probably sufficient.
That's awesome. So does anyone else have any questions? I'll just kind of pass it off if anyone wants to speak up now, or you can send them in through the chat too. It's always the awkward part. Clark showing his face.
And getting warmed up.
Yeah. Yeah, or David, anything else that you kind of wanted to focus on too? That's it for me. So this is kind of where we take it wherever you want to take it. And I
Off the
know,
cuff.
yeah,
Well, you know, I'm really interested to kind of learn a lot about the community that I've kind of entered now. I think it's very lovely here. It has a lot of similarities with the Kawarthas where I'm kind of from, and I've been living for the past 20 years. It's such a awkward time with the pandemic, you know, so it's been a lot of cold calling and reaching out. You know, that's why, you know, I got in touch with you guys to kind of see what everybody's doing, and you know, what the government interaction might be here, and what are the community groups and all that kind of jazz. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of them are still not quite in operation and that kind of jazz. So at this time here, I'm just kind of a sponge and, you know, trying to see where I fit in. I enjoyed meeting the people up at Creative PI and Film PI and Music PI. You know, I've done a bit of reaching out there, and I see some projects come down the pipeline. I got on quite well with Mark Sandiford, and I'm excited about some potential opportunities there. We're talking about me potentially opening up a new community studio in his creative hub, and maybe being involved in some of the construction and design efforts that are associated with that. This consulting thing is kind of a new branch for me, and I felt it was a tool to just kind of achieve these goals that I've just kind of set out. And just, you know, kind of use skill sets that I have in a different way, and a little bit more official stance. You know, I've done a lot of consulting in a very, you know, pro bono supportive community kind of way, but not necessarily in a way to kind of generate income. So, and I've then complemented the work with my degree, and I'm just trying to find new avenues of income and diversify all the different platforms, and just see what I kind of like and what I want to continue doing, you know. So And it's beautiful here. And I love the food. You know, there's lots of great restaurants. I'm pretty handy in the kitchen too. I spend a lot of time in a lot of restaurants. A lot of friends that are chefs and restaurant owners and servers and that kind of stuff. A lot of great, fun, creative, interesting people in that industry.
What's your favorite restaurant?
So far, I'd say probably Slaymakers.
Nice.
You know, the renovation there is beautiful. I love the monochromatic color scheme in there. It's very forward with all the tile and color stylings. You know, I really like how they've kind of popped in these ideas of fine food into the menu, but kept it at a very accessible level. You know, when you have a lot of tourists and things coming through, you don't want to be kind of excluding patrons, you know. Steve over there was a great guy. I sat down with him, the chef, and had a conversation. Smart with them buying the building and doing their B&B version of it, though in a downtown kind of situation. I think they're doing a lot of really interesting things there, you know. Terra Rossi has definitely some good things going on the menu and some great flavor profiles over there. I have a little soft spot for Casamia. I don't know, I go over there and I like the one barista. She does my Americano just perfect all the time. And it's kind of like the little restaurant that could for me in a way.
That's incredible. And I love that you also managed to answer that one with a very entrepreneurial mindset too. We brought it right back to the creative industry. So I think it's very on brand. We weren't off topic. But yeah, so if anyone else has anything else for David, I don't want to speak over anyone.
Sure. Maybe I'll ask a question if I can frame the question properly. If I heard correctly, your early background was in music, but you didn't pursue music performance as a career. My early I got my start in music and in Toronto and working in studios there, and I went to Humber College for far too many years and things, and it had a big effect later in my life, even though I was not doing anything related to music. And I'm wondering if you could share how your early start in music sort of might have had an effect with your life, or in your life, other than business-wise, or the way it affected your thinking, or something like that. How music and the arts sort of shaped you later on.
Oh, it absolutely changed my life. You know, as a very young child, I was, you know, very math oriented. You know, I think I was like 9 or something when I built my first computer with my dad. He was a programmer back in the days when it was punch cards and all this kind of jazz. So I came from a very highly rational and analytical perspective that was, you know, in a lot of ways very linear and boxed in. So as I, you know, entered the world of music, it really kind of opened up the arts to me and really got me engaged as a social person, as a politically minded, artistically minded, and how to kind of get out of these, what I feel are kind of the pitfalls and traps of how we're programmed as people to go through these systems of growth in a society. You know, oh, you start high school, you go to university, you get a job, get married, have a kid, you know, like, you know, getting trapped in that suburban lifestyle, it seems to me worse than death now. Whereas that was probably very much the path I would have been on had I not found music in the arts. So it's definitely completely shaped who I am as a person. Even if I haven't necessarily made producing art really like a primary factor for me. Cool. And it will continue for the rest of my life, really, so.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything? All right, I think without further ado, David, if you want to let us know how folks can get in touch with you, I don't know if your email is the best way or if you have a website or anything like that, in case anyone has anything that they didn't want to say in the group, or if they just want to connect for projects in the future. Yeah, and then I think we'll end it there.
Yeah, I think my email is the best way for now. You know, I'm kind of waiting to see what the dust settles before I start getting into creating new websites and profiles and that kind of thing. I've only been here since June, so I'm still kind of getting my legs in the community and figuring out where these businesses are going. And with this new startup, it's the same as every other startup. It's new and slightly precarious, and we'll see kind of where it goes. But I'm very hopeful for its development, and it's all going rather promisingly so far. So, yeah, dsearle.biz at Gmail, and it's pretty quick and easy, and I'm pretty accessible. So,
I'll send
and
that.
just happy to support anybody's project any way that I can. So,
Sweet. Do you want to send that email out to the chat too? I just don't want to misspell anything.
potentially, like I said, this is not my foray, this particular app. So, come here. Got my phone propped up. It's part of me, folks.
That's okay.
There we go.
Here, I'll try to raise it.
There you go. I think
Oh,
I've got it there now. So, and then back to the meeting and back to the group. There we go. Awesome. Did that go through okay?
I didn't get it in the chat, but one sec. I'll send it out just in case anyone needs it. One sec. I'm just gonna pull it up. It's is it dsearle.biz?
Yep. SEARLE.
At Gmail.
Yep. So.
All right. There it is. We went through a lot to get that to you folks, so feel free to reach out.
Sorry, apologies.
No, that's okay. All part of the fun. But no, thanks for coming out, David. It was great to meet you. And yeah, we're looking forward to getting you involved in our community in any way.
So great. Thanks a lot.
No worries.
Okay. Everybody enjoy your day and stay dry.
I gotcha.
Thank you.
Take care.